offers what Hammer Elite provides. Join with the link in the pinned comment or description below. Join Hammer Elite, the best membership on YouTube today.
You guys are destroying your financial future, spending like you have unlimited money, but you're just going further in the hole. You mean you have a literal $1,100 monthly car payment?
Yeah, it's getting a little tight.
$264 in monthly subscriptions.
I didn't know we had that many.
You guys have to take control of your finances.
How?
Just download the DollarWise budgeting app. It shows all of your expenses in one place and helps you monitor your finances so you're not blowing hundreds of dollars a year on things you don't need. Download the DollarWise budgeting app today and take advantage of your free trial.
Hey, your buddy said worth the money.
He's obsessed with the faker the better.
He has good taste.
Okay. National debt relief is not a bad thing. It's just like, that's just like the debt you got into is crazy.
I know, now I
Titties on here.
Yeah, only a couple hundred, and I just leaked that into one
Well,
payment.
you
So
paid that off immediately, but you've only made $800. Great. Great. So you owe $30,691 on here. Now we're crossing off the total debt, the previous landlord debt, but we still got the boyfriend, the friend, the hot tub, the line of credit, and now this $30,691 of debt, which most of it is that capital loan, which is crazy.
yeah, that was kind of going out of hand.
Crazy. What is your minimum monthly payment on this thing?
Well, now I pay it all in one payment to National Debt Relief. Now I pay it all, like,
Yes.
I paid $544 a month.
There you go.
Got it.
That's what I was asking.
It's about the Capital One card. You asked about the Capital One card. No.
Well, I meant that. $544. $540. How long have you been in this?
I started wrapping that up about 3 years ago.
No. The National Debt Relief.
No.
Are you sure you just can't answer questions?
Are you sure you can't answer questions, right? I don't know. You're jumping from one thing to another. I signed up for that National Debt Relief in January-ish. January 3.
And it's been $544 this whole time.
Well, it was $273 every 2 weeks, and then I changed it to do just one payment a month. I found that.
Okay, so still.
Yep.
But you've only paid $800? You've made 2 months of progress?
Well, okay, so if you go to the last page, it shows like 2,700 in the account. So like, I guess it's at the top. Yeah.
That they're
So
using
about
to negotiate?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what's in there. Okay, I got it. That's rough. That's crazy. Now let's look at your spending. First of all, what even the fuck? What is this? What is this account, dude? What am I looking at?
That's my checking account.
What checking with who? What is
Capital One.
so capital checking? Okay. Immediately here, Venmoing out $12.50. Venmoing out $8.29. Now these are Ubers, most likely.
Yes.
Old Greg Brewing, $8.50, but we're struggling to survive. Great. Uber.
I got the
Taco
happy hour.
Bell, Uber.
I told you it was
Uber.
Uber's it's
I'm
mostly.
calling them out still, though. And also, really, $838 of Uber in one sitting? That doesn't really make sense. I don't think. Look at that.
Oh, that was for the deposit and
they're
rent.
not all Ubers, like
The
you
big
said
ones,
earlier.
the big ones are rent.
Okay,
Like,
then half of them have been Ubers that I've called out so far, by the way.
Majority.
Smoker Buzz.
It was a vape.
You're a vapor? Why? You're older than me. I know for a fact you were not in the vape high school world.
No, I was not.
You picked that up. What a stupid thing to pick up. That's such an expense. How often are you getting vape?
Like once every 2 weeks.
How much is it per?
20. That's not that bad. $40 a month.
Shut the fuck up. What are you talking about? That is $500 a month. That is an extra payment on your national debt relief a year. That is an extra payment on your national debt relief a year. Off. That is substantial. Every little thing counts. Uber. And by the way, we know when some of the Ubers, they're Uber eating.
Yeah.
Taco Bell. So shut up. That's all Uber. So Uber, Turnstill Coffee, Night Owl
Teeny
Bar,
time.
Uber Eats probably, Uber Eats probably, Uber.
See, the majority of my spending is getting around.
On. There's still Uber Eats. It's unacceptable to be doing Uber Eats in your situation when you owe money to friends and boyfriend. What a disgusting thing to do. Spokesman Highland,
It's a coffee.
Uber Eats, or actually large Uber, so something else. Easy Tiger,
$100.
Uber. And also, maybe you're going around too much. Maybe you shouldn't be going out. If you cannot afford, maybe you shouldn't be going all these places if you can't afford the transportation, or take the bike, or scooter, or bus. I know you can bus. From your area, you can bus. Is it convenient? No, you can. Plan it. Uber. Metro thing is like $50 a month or something, or $100 a month. You do that in a day. Uber. Netflix. Going in and getting some bullshit in the gas station. Certainly know it's not gas for you. Cash apping out money. Uber. Maudie's North Lamar. Probably Uber Eats, then Uber. Wendy's.
No, Maddie's, I didn't Uber Eats. That was...
No, I'm talking about the next
Oh.
Ubering thing. Nosh and Bevy, the Hideout Pub, Uber, Spokesman Highland. A huge Venmo of $650.
That was
Uber Eats probably. Uber Eats probably. Cash App being sent out. Uber. Coffee. Kung Fu Salon. Uber Eats probably. Venmoing out $500. So many of these this month. Wendy's.
That's how I was paying rent.
Jack Ginger's weekly? Because it's like every second.
Well, I made some partial payments.
Dude. Uber Eats probably. Well, she's making partial payments.
Well, actually, the $500...
The Grand Bazaar. Uber. Nosh and Bevy. Well, she's making partial payments. Uber Eats
Actually,
probably.
no, that $500 one was...
Uber Eats probably. Uber. For $90?
I knew you were going to hit on that.
What the f*** is that? I already have Peacock that you try to justify.
Hulu has different stuff, and it has the live... I pay for the live.
Guys, Hulu has different stuff.
It has... The subscription I have gets the live, so, like, cable.
I don't care. You do not get cable if you cannot afford life. You owe your friends and boyfriend money.
I actually think... I'm pretty sure I changed the Hulu one, but it just hasn't... I haven't been billed for the next cycle
Bro,
yet.
this is so stupid. Uber, 1. Apple Cash sent out. White Tiger. Going in, getting some bullshit. Uber. Oh my. Spokesman Highland. Uber. Brew Market. Apple. Spokesman Highland. Apple. Uber Eats for sure. GoFundMe. Go fund paying off your friend, you dumb.
My coworker has
I don't give a I don't give a That sucks that your coworker has cancer. You do not have money. And also, if we're being completely honest, that absolutely sucks. $30 is not going to do anything. I know it's about the lots of small amounts makes a cancer payment. Like, I advocate for that. I support that. Let's absolutely give. You're not in a position to, and you're hurting yourself. I'm sorry. Send me theirs, and I'll give them much more money. That's what matters more. You know?
Yeah.
And the more you want to give to things in the future, the less you'll...
So these are the chicken skewers. They're pre-seasoned in herb butter. These are the ingredients. Alright, sadly the baked potato wasn't done yet. Baked potatoes take forever. Here we go. So, chicken skewer, we got herb butter right here. This is what I cooked up on the grill. Let's try it out. There's a lot of flavor there. Delicious. I'm gonna have these for dessert. This is really good.
Be able to, because you're preventing yourself from being able to do anything by not allowing yourself to dig out of a hole. That's what happens. When people want to be a little charitable here and there, but they're in a bad financial situation, it prevents them from being much more charitable over the course of their life. Because you need to get out of this, and then you can give so much more. So it's not about the cancer thing. That's sad. But it's obviously about just the overall situation. Cash App, $60. Barbecue Chicken, USA. Zilker Brewing Company, Uber Eats. What the? Pull up your checking account for me right now. What a joke. What a joke. That spending is horrendous, disgusting, unacceptable for someone who owes so much money to people in their personal lives. What a joke. Available balance, $92. That's insane, dude. That's insane. I started with 21. That's insane. Surprised you have not overdrafted this year, holding us so low. Holding us so low. We got a 360 money market account. Got what is that?
Nothing.
87 cents. Wonderful. Of which you probably pay a fee to have.
I do not.
Okay, thank goodness. That's 6 cents in interest. Well done. That's crazy. Okay, before we build this budget, I mean, listen, there is an income conversation. There is, again, I'm a little nervous about if we're in a recession or anything, your industry being impacted. What are we trying to do? Because it sounds like you have no idea what you want to do. You've been hopping jobs like crazy, right?
Yeah, I've done a few things.
Tell me over like the past 10 years, what's your job situations been?
I was a hairstylist for the majority of that time, and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but you're in Texas. We were closed for a month.
Yeah, but then I sat on the couch for a month, and I started getting tech.
That was a you thing.
While I was sitting on the couch for a month, I started studying for exams in tech, like Microsoft.
Tech certifications?
Yeah.
Okay, what'd you get?
I got 2 different Microsoft certifications, and then I got, like, once people started hiring again, I got a job. I don't even... One was an Azure one, and then one was a 365.
Okay, and then
pretty basic ones to get started in.
And then you got a job doing what exactly? You're
tech
starting
support.
to tell me
So I
about it.
started
Tech
as
support's good.
tech support. I was making $36K, so it wasn't great, but it was
But tech
entry
support
level.
can be good. You can move
Yeah.
up in that. And maybe that can get you into tech sales. Listen, it's not great in tech right now,
Yeah.
but I can get you that certification specifically. Tech sales can be really lucrative.
It
You don't seem like a
can be-
people person. You're a little bit of a wrist-slitty emo, gonna kill everyone. But, you know, if you decided to be a people
It's a
person,
compliment.
I know. For you, exactly. That's why maybe you wouldn't be good in tech sales.
Yeah. Also, a lot of sales jobs, you have to have a bachelor's degree, and I do not have that.
This is tech sales, though. Sales is more about the grind, the numbers, the resume you bring in, the things, the data you can show. The hustle. Oh, but you don't have, but a tech sales certification would help. Okay, so you went into tech sales, you're making $36,000 a year for how long?
About August to March, about 7-8 months.
Why so low? Or little?
Because I got a different job making more money.
What was the different job?
I worked for SHI. So it was like
As what?
I worked for SHI as a pre-sales service advisor. So it was
Okay,
like,
so still service.
yeah,
But good. What
less
were you making?
technical. 65.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Basically what you're doing now, except it was probably more enjoyable, right? More consistent? Less grind? Okay.
Well, yeah,
Okay,
they
go
put
on.
everybody back in office, and I was living in Round Rock at the time, and then I had to go all the way down south, and it was
Yeah, it sucks. Okay.
Yeah.
But, okay, so what made you leave that? How long did you do that? Let me just
about
assess your resumes. We're thinking of what to do next.
a year and a half.
Okay, shows you stick somewhere for a little bit. I would have preferred to, but that's fine. And you're making 65. When'd you leave that? Where'd you go to?
Left that about 2. Yeah, so I guess I've been bartending about 2 years, not 3.
So that was straight to
So about
bartending
2
from there.
years ago.
Why'd you go into bartending from that?
I wanted something really quick, and I also just really don't
Did you
like
get laid off or did you quit?
laid off. They started laid off a bunch of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get severance?
Yes.
Man.
Yeah. So then I went into bartending, and then I've just kind of stayed with that. I've spent the last year managing a place, so to build some kind of management on my resume as well. Learned a lot, so I can't stick to a place.
So your resume's okay. The bartending thing, honestly, isn't really going to help it, unfortunately, because it shows that
No,
you
but
left
the
from tech and you went into
management-
service.
Yeah, but the management.
Oh, you
side
and
of
your
things-
boyfriend want to move to San Diego. How are we doing that? How's it even possible?
Well, this has got to get worked out first.
Well, this is an insane amount of things to get worked out first.
I know.
What's your rent?
$875,
What about utilities all combined?
about $150,
Okay, what's your phone bill?
$110.
Still have your what is it, the license?
I don't have it anymore. It's expired.
Why? Oh, can you re-up? How easy is it to re-up?
I might be able to I'm not sure if I would have to take state board again because it's been so long.
Your minimum monthly payments are $907, and your income is $4,116. Okay, did you calculate your internet and your utility payments, or is that separate?
Yeah.
In today's video, we're covering the CPI inflation report. So here's the situation. CPI headline inflation came in at 2.9%, and CPI core inflation came in at 3.1%. Okay, so how does this impact the whole situation when it comes to the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates? So the first thing that you need to know is that the rate of inflation is accelerating, at least for headline inflation. Headline inflation rose from 2.7% the prior month to 2.9%. Core inflation remained unchanged at 3.1%. Okay, the Federal Reserve, they're trying to get inflation down to 2.0%. However, regardless of whether you're looking at headline inflation or core inflation, and if you think about it, they're both above 2%, like well above 2%. And as you can see, the rates of inflation, they bottomed in April, and since then they've been accelerating. But here's the situation. Even though the rate of inflation is accelerating, the Federal Reserve is still most likely going to cut interest rates at their next meeting, which is going to be on September 17th, which is next week. So the logic is, it's two things, the reason why they're still going to cut. So the first thing is that they believe that the inflation situation is still under control. They believe that this acceleration will be temporary, or their favorite word, transitory. And the second thing is that they believe that this weakening labor markets needs an interest rate cut to prevent further deterioration. Okay, before the CPI inflation report came out today, here were the odds of what the Federal Reserve would do at their next meeting on September 17th. And this is according to the CME Fed Watch tool. before the inflation report, there was a 92% chance that the Federal Reserve would cut interest rates by 0.25% at that meeting, and an 8% chance that they're going to cut interest rates by 0.5%. So it was like a given that they're going to cut interest rates. It's just going to be a question of how much they're going to cut at this upcoming meeting. Now, after the release of the CPI inflation report, here's how the odds have changed. So sentiment, as you can see, has not shifted by much. There's now an 88.8% chance that they're going to cut interest rates by 0.25%, and an 11.2% chance that they're going to cut interest rates by 0.5%. So as I said in my previous video, I expected a higher inflation print and most likely still an interest rate cut of 0.25%. And that's what it's most likely going to be. So I'm just letting you know that when they cut interest rates by 0.25% at this upcoming meeting, it's not going to be a shocker to anybody. This is kind of expected. So what people are going to be more focused on during the press conference is how quickly, the hints that they're going to give about how quickly they're going to cut rates. When's the next interest rate cut going to be? Is it going to be in October or December or maybe even at both? But this is still important for you to know, so I want to show you this. There are 3 more Fed meetings left this year. There's the one that's coming up next week, and then there's another meeting in October, and then in December. So the updated market expectation is that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates at each one of the remaining meetings. So the one next week in October and in December as well. So the market expectation is a 74.4% chance of that happening. So that would drop the Fed funds interest rate from the current 4.5% to 3.75%. So in that short time frame, that would be aggressive interest rate cuts. And that would have big consequences on the stock market, on precious metals, cryptocurrencies, and interest rates on consumer loans and products. And we're talking about from savings accounts to credit card interest rates, etc. Okay, but this begs the question, why such an aggressive approach to interest rate cuts? It's because the labor market data has been coming in terribly. Now, I covered the last jobs report, and I showed you that the unemployment rate was ticking up higher. And then this week, there was a revision to the labor market data, and it was a massive downward revision, 911,000 jobs for the past year. This was the largest revision on record since 2002. So that's about 76,000 fewer jobs created each month than initially reported. So this revision includes a few months under President Biden and a few months under President Trump. So the largest downward revisions, they were in leisure and hospitality. That was revised downward by 176,000 jobs. Business and professional services down by 158,000 jobs. And retail trade down by 126,200 jobs. Okay, so in this type of setup, with rising unemployment and slower job creation, this means that we have a weakening labor markets, and the Federal Reserve wants to cut interest rates more aggressively to support the labor markets. So yes, they could do larger rate cuts at each one of their meetings to be even more aggressive, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It doesn't seem like they want to do that. But they may still choose to do that if the labor market just declines rapidly, more rapidly than they anticipate. So that was the labor market side of things. Now I want to show you the inflation side of things. Just the other day, the Producer Price Index, or the PPI report, came out. The Producer Price Index gives us insights about the inflation that producers are experiencing. If PPI is going up at a faster rate, then it's expected to pass on to the Consumer Price Index, the CPI. But the Producer Price Index unexpectedly dropped in August, and this was a big deal. And as you can see from the chart, it was a steep drop-off compared to the prior month. Now, what's the significance of this? It means that if inflation is cooler, then it gives justification for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates, and maybe even more aggressively. And after this news dropped, President Trump went onto Truth Social to post this. So he said, just out, no inflation, too late, which he's referring to Jerome Powell, chair of the Federal Reserve, must lower the rate big right now. Powell is a total disaster who doesn't have a clue. Now, besides President Trump, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent wants the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates big as well. So I want to show you this video clip of Bessent saying that the Federal Reserve should go with bigger rate cuts. Please take a look.
Wall Street might do even better if the Federal Reserve cuts interest rates. The president was pretty clear yesterday, put out this comment, Jerome too late, Powell must now lower the interest rate. Is it reasonable to give them a bit more time to draw conclusions about what's happening here?
Well, I think what we can see is that, first of all, what if the BLS data had been the higher quality and we'd had those numbers, Jonathan? So if we'd seen those numbers in May, in June, I suspect we could have had rate cuts in June and July. So that tells me that there's a very good chance of a 50 basis point rate cut. And I think President Trump is very good at giving these nicknames. And I think the reason that Jay Powell gets the nickname too late is because he wants to go into a series of rate hikes. He's not willing. He's not Alan Greenspan, who was very forward thinking. They try to be more data driven, which I think is a mistake, because I think we are going back into an economy like we had in the 90s. So, it's just very old-fashioned thinking, but I do think we could go into a series of rate cuts here, starting with a 50 basis point rate cut in September.
A 50 basis rate cut in September, does that signal that the economy, though, is not doing well?
That signals that there's an adjustment and the rates are too constrictive. If you look at any model, that we should probably be 150, 175 basis points lower. So, I think the committee needs to step back.
So that's what President Trump and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent are saying. But I want you to know that the Federal Reserve, even the more dovish ones within the Fed, they're saying that they support 0.25% rate cuts, at least at the next meeting. And they want to be data dependent. So I want to show you this video clip of Fed's Waller.
I believe that monetary policy should look through the tariff effects on inflation. I've been saying this for a year. With underlying inflation close to 2%, market-based measures of longer-term inflation expectations firmly anchored, and the chances of an undesirable weakening in the labor market have increased, proper risk management means the FOMC should be cutting the policy rate right now. I felt this way in July, and all the evidence since then has led me to feel more strongly about it today. Based on what I know today, I would support a 25 basis point cut at the committee's meeting on September 16th and 17th. While there are signs of a weakening labor market, I worry that conditions could deteriorate further and quite rapidly. And I think it is important that the FOMC not wait until such a deterioration is underway and risk falling behind the curve in setting appropriate monetary policy.
Now, I just want to conclude with my opinion. I believe that the Federal Reserve is going to go with smaller rate cuts. And they want to do that because they want to see how these rate cuts are going to affect inflation. My opinion is that we're headed towards an easier monetary policy. I mean, we're going to see more inflation. We're going to see more asset inflation. It's just a matter of how hard inflation is going to accelerate. And that's going to depend on how easy of a monetary policy that they decide to go with. Okay, so that's the CPI inflation report for you and the impact on the situation. Please subscribe. I'll keep you updated on this whole situation. Thank you for the support, and wish you a very nice day. Take care. So I just want to give you a heads up that it is now widely expected that the Federal Reserve is going to cut interest rates in September. Okay, so what does this mean? This means that an easier monetary policy is on its way and more inflation. So I'm just trying to be honest. So this is, I mean, you can consider this a good thing if you already own assets, but from a cost of living perspective, it's just going to get worse. Cost of living is just going to get worse. Now, I want you to take a look at this. This is wild. So this is coming from the CME Fed Watch tool. There is now a 94.9% chance that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates at their next meeting on September 17th. Okay, so how did this happen? Like, how did the probability just shoot up this high? Okay, so if you didn't know, it was clearly because of the jobs report that was released on August 1st, and that was a disaster of a report. So I want to tell you how this, these results tie into the Federal Reserve and the expectation of the major expectation of a rate cut for September. So this is what happened. In May, the government said that the labor market added 144,000 jobs, and that was revised down to 19,000. In June, the government said that the labor market added 147,000 jobs, and that was revised down to 14,000. And for July, the expectation was that the labor market would add 120,000 jobs, and it only added 73,000. And I'm just speaking honestly, like, I wouldn't be surprised to see that get revised down from the 73,000 jobs added to even negative 120,000. Like, that's completely possible. Okay, so the situation was such a disaster that President Trump immediately fired the Bureau of Labor Statistics commissioner that's in charge of overseeing this report. Okay, now, President Trump has constantly been urging the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. Like, that's no secret, right? But Jay Powell, who's the chair of the Federal Reserve, refuses to cut interest rates. So Powell's saying that if they start to cut interest rates too early, then that may re-accelerate inflation. So that's his biggest fear. So Powell's saying that we can afford to take a wait-and-see approach because the labor market is still solid. However, we got this jobs report, and it showed that the labor market is not solid, as a matter of fact. So essentially, that's what's going on. People are looking at this jobs report, and that's their interpretation. They're saying, well, maybe we cannot afford to take a wait-and-see approach anymore because these high interest rates, they're choking the economy, especially the labor markets. Okay, so here's how things have changed. Before the jobs report, there was a 41.3% chance that they're going to cut interest rates in September. Immediately after the awful results of the jobs report, which is released on August 1st, the odds of an interest rate cut in September jumped up from that 41.3% to 82.8%, so it almost doubled. And right now, the odds of a September rate cut, they've gone up even further, even higher, to a 94.9% chance. So that is a very high expectation. Now, I just want to say, here's the problem. Because the Federal Reserve, they know that they have not won the war against inflation. So they've been trying to get inflation down to 2%, and their preferred measure of inflation is core PCE inflation. Right now, it's at 2.8%, and take a look at the chart. It's stalled there for more than a year. And another thing is that the tariffs are expected to accelerate the rate of inflation over the coming months. I mean, if you've been watching the Federal Reserve FOMC, you've heard Powell say that multiple times. So this is a problem. Okay, so it's a problem because if you have inflation running above targets and it's about to heat up, then those are reasons to not cut interest rates. But if you have a weakening labor markets, then that's a reason to cut interest rates. So that's a tough spot. So what is the Federal Reserve going to do? Now, looking back at the FOMC, Powell was actually asked about what's it going to take for you to cut interest rates, and I want to show you how Powell responded.
Hi, Chair Powell. Thank you. Well, can you give us a little more about what kind of economic data does the Fed need to see before you'll be ready to cut? I mean, do you need inflation back nearly to target? Are there other things in the pricing that you look for? Do you need to see weakening in the job market? What kind of things are you looking for?
What will it take? It'll be the totality of the evidence. As I mentioned, there's quite a lot of data coming in before the next meeting. Will it be dispositive of that? It's really hard to say. We don't make those decisions right now, so we'll have to see.
Well, I guess just in terms of inflation, though, for example, some people would point to if it remains only in goods and it doesn't bleed over to services, then maybe that's evidence that the tariff effect is going to be a temporary one-time thing. Is that kind of thing affect your thinking, or do you just need to see the number come down?
I think closer to 2. We'll look at everything. It's as I mentioned. A pretty reasonable base case is that this will be a one-time price increase, and in the end, we'll make sure that that's the case. We're just trying to do that efficiently. And efficiently means getting the timing right, so we don't. Again, if we cut rates too soon, maybe we didn't finish the job with inflation. History is dotted with examples of that. If you cut too late, then maybe you're doing unnecessary damage to the labor market. So we're trying to get that timing right, and that's effectively what we're doing.
Okay, so the next Federal Reserve meeting is going to take place on September 17th, and Powell says that he's going to be looking at the totality of the evidence, or basically all the data. So he's still going to get another round of labor market data, the August report in September, and another round of PCE inflation.
You don't have enough money to be 50-50 with me. That's your problem.
rest of them.
Greetings, friends. Chance Candide, at your service.
I'm
Rook. Taya and Viago have mentioned that you can be trusted, and I require assistance. The Blight has piled itself onto the streets, choking off the city. We cannot have it. I will mark where it is worst. Please, go and clear it away. But be cautious. We do not have a good idea of what lies inside it.
Quantity of jobs created, that's falling rapidly. There's no one denying that. But the unemployment rate, it ticked up by only 0.1%, only ticked up to 4.2%. And Powell did say that the most important number to look at in the jobs report is going to be the unemployment rate. So please take a look.
Given the fluid labor supply situation, is there a number for this job report we get on Friday that would do like equilibrium job growth?
Yeah, the main number you have to look at now is the unemployment rate, because it's true that the demand for workers in the form of, let's call it, just say payroll jobs, that number has come down, but so has the break-even number.
Now, something else that I want you to keep in mind is that 2 Fed governors dissented at the last meeting. So essentially, the Fed committee decided to not cut interest rates, right? And then Fed Governor Waller, Vice Chair Michelle Bowman, voted to cut interest rates. So last time the 2 Fed board governors dissented was more than 3 decades ago. So even within the Fed, there are calls to cut rates. So to be fair, these 2 governors were appointed by President Trump, but regardless, there was dissent. So from within the Fed, there is pressure to start cutting rates. Another thing that I want you to note is that this September meeting is going to be a really important one, because you have to remember that in September, they're going to update their forecasts. So last time in June, the Federal Reserve predicted 2 more interest rate cuts for the rest of this year. If they keep it at 2 rate cuts for the remainder of this year, that means that if they cut in September, then they're going to have to cut again very soon, either in October or in December. So I just want you to know that there's a big market expectation for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates at their next meeting in September. So I'm going to keep you updated on this whole situation. Thank you for the support. Please subscribe. I wish you a very nice day. So the Federal Reserve had their meeting today. And today's meeting...
This is really hard. I grew up in relatively liberal households. A lot of my family is relatively liberal. I've managed to walk to be the conservative sheep from the air out loud. But for the most part, a lot of my family's my wife, obviously conservative, and don't necessarily raise my kids conservatively. I'm convinced now that the media wants us dead. The media wants me dead. I think some of our politicians actually want dead. So I know this is probably going to make me sound conspiratorial or borderline schizophrenic, paranoid, whatever it is, but seeing what just happened in front of our eyes live and seeing people's reactions. I'm saying people react differently to grief, but man, there are some actual psychopaths out there, and the media's reaction to this is like, oh, you're a psycho. They can't help themselves. They keep saying, well, Charlie was a far right, far right, far right, far right activist, extremist, far right conservative commentator, calling Charlie. Like, what does that even mean, dude? Have you ever seen a Charlie Kirk video? He's like a nice, nerdy guy that would just go and debate people or talk to people, to everybody. He whales with purple hair, with big earrings, and the bullet nose, right? You know, when it comes, let's give him a chance, let's give him a chance, right? Let's go. Here's my values, what I believe in, what are yours? Like, give everybody a chance. Not far right at all. Even myself, I don't consider myself far right at all. Like, I even try to give Mark Carney a chance. Even on camera, I'd say, you know, like, hey, we gotta give him a chance, right? He's the new Prime Minister, new governor of Canada, right? And like Trudeau, we finally got Trudeau out, what we wanted. We gotta maybe give Mark Carney a chance, right? Like, maybe he can actually get something done. It turns out that he can, so I've now realized that. Thank you. But I am not much convinced that far right, far right, far right, cheese, which is what they keep calling Charlie Kirk. That's after he got. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a wake-up call, let's say this, but let's get into this. Start off with this. It's speechless. I'm speechless. I'm sad. I'm angry. I'm devastated. I'm empty inside.
Still ahead, as the latest on the killing of far-right activist Charlie Kirk in the U.S., investigators have released images of a person of interest. Just ahead of the drugs.
Far right. It's
That's right, and of course, I think it's also a bigger deal because
yeah, he stood up and he made a dedicated video and ordered all the flags to be hung on Sunday, 6 p.m. The President of the United States sees what's going on. There's radicalization that's happening. It's because of the media. The media is actually the problem. I see people with, the media is the virus. It's easy to see. But once you actually start to see and your homes start getting attacked and murdered and continue to attack those who were just murdered, then you start to realize, oh yeah, this is actually like a culture. This is we're at war. We're not in Ukraine, we're not in Afghanistan, Iran, we're at war here. And it's with our own taxpayer dollars, it's with our own politicians, our own media. So you have a choice, right? You can choose to try to fall into the propaganda trap of the media, mainstream media really is. You can choose to think outside the box and realize that they want us dead. They freaking want us dead.
It's not violence and see the facts here as well. To make it and trying to prevent this one. The suspect we don't know the full motivation, but it certainly is occurring in a very politically charged time. And I need to see the reaction from both sides to what has happened, to know what is spoken to there. And I don't know if you've done that in all the last 12 hours or so. What have you seen there, and what concerns does that raise for you?
I've had a little bit of time to look, and it is very disconcerting seeing, especially and his supporters as well, where they are calling for. There are some online spaces that are calling for further violence, retaliatory violence. So I really fear that this will lead actually to an escalation as the left in particular is notified in many of these narratives and quite explicitly in an ex-post comments by Trump yesterday, which like very soundly advocating the left and fairly Democrats as well.
The media, the left-wing politicians, that left narrative is just what's really pushing this toxicity in this world that's leading to the brainwashing of hundreds of millions of people. And they are taking matters into their own hands, and they're radicalized because they're told it's okay to be radicalized because Orange Man, Nazi, right? Trump, Nazi, Peter, this and that, far right, far right, far right. I just keep hearing that in my brain, and it's sickening. Oh my goodness. And they just can't help themselves either. So look at this guy.
I mean, Charlie Kirk, and I don't say any of this to disparage him, but was a controversial, polarizing figure, right? The provocations
No, he wasn't at all. He was a super nice guy who literally spent explosive his adult life, talking to people who lived. He got out of his bubble. He broke the bubble. He broke the box. He was in an echo chamber. He bridged the gap between the left and the right to try to understand the left's mentality. And he would literally go and debate and talk to people exclusively on the left. My goodness. He was, so to speak, trying to talk to them. And then this happened.
These university colleges going to these campuses, and to sort of provocation and confrontation and debate and argument was a big part of what he did with his Total War USA. But he was very close to Donald Trump, who ordered all of U.S. flags to be lowered in honor of Charlie Kirk for his murder today. You can see right there. Is that the White House? I think that's the White House. But this speaks to his importance and central role to Donald Trump, Katie. Charlie Kirk.
That's insane to me. They just can't help themselves. Use a provocateur. Right away, they took. Just on video, they also posted this. Here's some of Charlie Kirk's most controversial takes. Blame right-wing activist and commentator Relish made his platform to rail against liberal views. This is insane. Absolutely insane. And this is why it's gotten me a little nervous, which is why I took to X and I said this. I'm actually kind of my own provincial government has labeled me, my name, a right-wing extremist. Look at what just happened today. If Charlie Kirk would label private citizens with such radical labels, you owe me a genuine apology and retraction, David. I'm going to sue you so hard. And that's because I was invited down to the legislature, which is the provincial parliament in British Columbia. And just me showing up, they made it on CTV. Yeah, it was like being spectacle. This is BTVnews.ca. This is like the actual CTV news. Forever ingrained in the come out. Outcry after BC Conservative weds pro-Trump YouTuber into legislature.
The leader came to Bailey's defense, pointing the finger at a guest of the conservative MLA.
Prince George resident Jasper Sunshine, a popular YouTuber who is known as Mr. Sunshine Baby, is with us.
He has a strong following online with clear opinions. But his commentary on Ontario's premier put him in the spotlight.
The person introduced by this Congress honorable speaker posted a video that said that the King in Ontario is ready to cut off the power.
Here it is.
Ford in Ontario is ready to cut off the power. Liberals are turning.
And that's not all Mr. Sunshine Baby said about him.
Babies, you freaking nuts.
Honorable speaker is the opposition.
I mean, is there anything that I've said that's factually incorrect? I mean, he did threaten to cut off the power, right? And then they even got the on the radio. This is what's crazy. TPV News reviewed the YouTube video, confirmed that Jasper Sunshine goes by Mr. Sunshine Baby. Didn't make those comments in addition to describing himself as a fan of Trump, calling the Ukrainian president Zelensky grifter, which we all know it's weird how much money he keeps sending to Ukraine. In another video earlier in the week, Sunshine rallied against provincial and federal response to his tariffs, singling out Doug Ford. Said dude has got rabies, he's freaking nuts. Which absolutely is, again, factually correct. But for some reason that makes me a far-right extremist, a far-right extremist. Well, I'm not going to stop. I'm actually going to be going after David maybe with full force of law. So there's quite a bit of support, I should say, for this. In a recent post, David Eby took to social media. He said, broadcast news is essential to our democracy, holding leaders to account, shining a light on wrongdoings, and work incredibly hard to deliver the news. It doesn't even matter what he said. I was just waiting for a David Eby post, to which I said, you owe me an apology for calling me a radical extremist when I'm not. It is irresponsible that you target on my back like that. You want me dead. You make that clear with your disgusting labels. And then radicalization continues, right? Here you go, cult of control, whatever this is. It's a independent media, left-wing it seems. Charlie Kirk died as he lived, propagating hateful myths about marginalized groups in our society. He was a profiteer of America's increasingly violent culture. He believes so. That is insane. The hell with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was one of the most sensible people to talk to both sides. It was absolutely incredible. And I'm not the only commentator or YouTuber or person that just posts their opinion online who's afraid of their own safety net. In this article here, this is the ultimate fear, political commentator says after Charlie took jury. Commentators across the political spectrum were shaken up immediately in the aftermath of the fatal shooting of the right-wing influencer Charlie Kirk at a Utah University campus, with many reacting in real time to have the news as it unfolded on Wednesday. This is the ultimate fear for a political commentator. This is it. This is the thing that you don't want happening. This is the thing that you never want happening. This is Solomon Baker, a popular socialist dreamer, known on his Gaza war advocacy. For the record, there is a shit ton of people celebrating this as well. I am not, for obvious reasons. Becker said this is what a lot of people fantasize happening to me all the effing time, and they will, and they say they will do that to me all the effing time. And that's something that people on the left, even in Canada, there was someone who used to be a reporter for Global News, Rachel Gilmore, just locked her account because she's, immediately criticized Charlie Kirk or something of the sorts, and there was some backlash, and it just spiraled out of control and became fearful for her life and safety and locked down everything. And it's something that is continuously happening with people on the left and the right.
Down what looks like when a fall gets down the sale. $1,000 in 3 years and was sold out sale.
Real estate investors in Canada are getting absolutely crushed as home sales drop dramatically. Also, people are starting to take 30% haircuts on the price they paid just a few years ago on their houses in places like North Lakes and also Toronto. We're going to discuss it in today's video. This is pretty crazy. Obviously, this is very bad if you're someone who's investing in the real estate industry, but also just in general for Canada, because Canada is so dependent on real estate prices continually going up, and that may not be the case. And let's discuss it in today's video. My God, we're in the housing market back a good time soon, actually, but if you just don't believe the real estate market in Canada, you think that it's headed to an ultimate collapse, that's also a fair opinion, because we talk a lot about that too. I do think the real estate market has been a massive number in Canada, especially since 2008. It's got a lot more since 2015. So check this out. Vaughan, Ontario. There are tons of people losing in the housing market every day. $240,000 losses are so common now. I don't even bother to post them. This one is huge. The person lost 30% of what they paid for it. So $574,000 loss in this house. That's over $500,000 loss in this property. And this is the property right here, as you guys can see. It's a pretty nice house, but it's it's pretty generic, like big house and all like this. So, it's an attractive looking house, but if this is something you're into, I don't know, you're gonna take some haircut with it. Maybe you got a deal if you're looking right now. How do you know if it's a deal? I think these prices could be going down even further here in Vaughan, Ontario. That $574,000 loss over $500,000 that house. Actually, being inflation right now. These are just regular homeowners. I don't think these are investors are doing that. Yeah, crazy loss there. 2022 homeowners unable to leave the country because houses won't sell. This individual right here is saying the realtor who can guarantee to sell the house. He's the one making fun of this. We want to sell the house now. The country, so the market, you're someone strong. The house is about 7 months now, and the age of the house is 3 years. Very odd sentence structure right there. They might be in the country, maybe they were here 3 years ago, and they bought a brand new reconstructed house. It looks like it's not selling. You're 7 months on the market. 7 months on markets. You can imagine that. There was like many wars during the pandemic in places like Ontario, pretty much anywhere in Ontario, even cottage country, houses were being bid up like crazy, and now they're taking massive 30% losses on their houses, and it could go down much further. So leave your thoughts down below about the housing market in Ontario, Canada.
See what leading down the price looks like when a property gets sold out for sale. Here's what that is. Look at that. Every week the price is going down. This property in Warren Place just lost $860,000 in 3 years and was sold out for sale. Here's the previous listing. Look at that. May of 2022 had been on the market for $1.9 million. And today, barely getting $1 million for that same property, and having no choice, the bank had to eventually step in and sell themselves out for sale. Over the last couple of years, recreational properties like this one are getting hit hard. Prices continue to go down. The amount of listings just continues to rise, and they just continue to sit on the market. And when the bank steps in to sell, they just gotta sell. So they'll continue to lead that price down until the market moves along with that. Makes sense. What are your thoughts about this $860,000 lost in just over 3 years?
A lot of these houses, like in places like cottage country, right? So a lot of people are buying these as either investments or something that they could potentially live in during the pandemic. You know, when people were forced to work jobs, and now a lot of these companies are forcing employees to go back to the office full time, and that's obviously going to put some of these properties like Lakes or Muskoka, they go down in price. But to see that $800,000 loss on the house, it looks like just a regular cottage home. It didn't look anything special, at least the photos there. But again, this is probably a nice house right from the lake, which is very desirable, but is it really that desirable? Now, you're still even spending $1 million on it. I still think that's pretty high for, you know, the lakes. That house still, maybe like it's probably a lot less than even that. So, houses in general, I think, are just in a bubble in Ontario, but now they're definitely starting to come down. Not even just in cottage country, places like Hamilton, the area, just anywhere just outside of the GTA, and even the GTA, prices have been going down. In Toronto specifically, houses haven't been going down as dramatically as we're seeing outside of the GTA, but you've seen these dramatic price decreases in condos in Toronto. They've been quickly in free fall, so it's just absolutely crazy what's happening.
Anyone wondering, they're shutting Canada down, houses are going to be going up, someone's buying them, no one's selling. Houses here, 6 line of right, we go over here, right across the street. Holy thinking right here. And here we are, guys, just about 2 years later. The subdivision that once was is now complete. And as we look over here, that they were supposed to start digging there 2 years ago. 2 years ago. And they just got excavators and that other thing. They're right now. So what exactly happened here? They did build a big road there. And that just happened, I think, a couple days ago. And these are the last houses here going up. And after that, no more basements are going to be done. It's supposed to be a whole housing community, which they have just made into a park with grass moving as far as the eye can see. So as we look over here, guys, in this beautiful community, and the billionaires that are living there, we have to look at these great, unforeseen, and, quite frankly, cloud skies, which are definitely indicative of the future to come. Stay safe, God bless.
So a lot of new constructions are just not going on right now. A lot of them are frozen because the developers can't raise enough money to actually start the project. So you're seeing a lot of these projects being delayed, sitting there. As you can see there, they have a massive portion of land with the excavators and no work being done. This is the summer right now, right? So we have good weather to actually start these housing constructions, but they're not actually happening because the money is just not there. The housing market is just nowhere near as hot as it was when they actually planned a lot of these houses. A lot of the houses that are being built now, a lot of these communities are just mere condos where they're basically made to rent. There's not a lot of single-family homes being built, which is the main thing a lot of people actually enter the housing market to live in these houses want in Canada. Toronto's new home market experiences the worst February on record, with nearly 17,000 unsold homes. So it's not just North Lakes or cottage country we're seeing in the most populated city in Canada. Toronto culture, Toronto's new home market saw its worst February on record, with 17,000 unsold homes as demand slumps. Sales of new single-family homes dropped over 60% year-over-year, while condo sales fell nearly 50%. High interest rates, affordability concerns, and cautious buyer sentiment continues. Developers are offering incentives, inventory levels remain at historic highs, raising concerns about potential price corrections. So you're having the inventory levels higher than they've ever been, and we also have a massive influx of new people in the country. It looks like it might be a perfect storm. You think that the demand should be going up, surely, right? If you have people need to access housing, why are these prices still going down? Why are they still not selling? Because it's out of reach for the majority of people when it comes to income. The income disparity between the actual housing and median incomes is only in Canada. It might be the worst in the G7 nations and potentially Western. I hope you guys learned some of today's video. Leave your thoughts down about the housing market in Canada, which seems to be really horrible right now. Nowhere near as hot as it was during the pandemic. Okay, see you guys in the next video. Take care.
Okay, we got the real estate reports in from across Canada for the month of August. All the sales reporting is in, and the results are terrible. Terrible. Just, the real estate market of Canada is terrible. So, let's examine what's going on. But there's still some provinces that are shooting the lights out. Saskatchewan, if you live in Saskatchewan, things are going really well. Those prices are up, sales are up, everything's up. Quebec, pretty good. It's not on fire, but prices are up in Quebec, and sales volumes are moderately okay. Atlantic, it's all over the place. Some cities doing well, some cities kind of cooling off a bit. But for the big population provinces in English Canada, for British Columbia, for Alberta, and for Ontario, no good. Let's just call it for what it is. No good. Let's break it down. So, what's going on in British Columbia? Sales are up slightly, over 3.5% upwards. In terms of unit sales, it's going off a very, very bad year last year. So, unit sales are up, prices are down. It's that simple. Prices continue to drift down in British Columbia. And everybody's going to I know everyone on Vancouver Island is going to put a comment on it. No, you're wrong. Things in Victoria are great. Okay, settle down. Okay, we know they're good on the island. It's not the whole province, please. Please stop. Okay, so we love you in Victoria, but enough. So, what's going on in Alberta? Yeah, the Alberta real estate market is finally cracking. Don't get me wrong, Edmonton's doing great. Things are popping in Edmonton, which is possibly the lowest base price of a major city in Canada outside of Quebec and the Maritimes. Sorry, Atlantic. I say Atlantic. So, but Calgary's coming off. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Calgary was booming, and just like everything else in the world, energy prices are coming down off. Prices are off across the world, and let's face it, the trend in Calgary is always to overbuild because it's easier to build houses there. It's more efficient. It's faster. It's easier to expand quickly. So it's always a booming market when it's booming, and not so hot when it's not booming. And right now, prices are down, sales are slightly down, that sort of Calgary is more impactful on Alberta than Edmonton. So probably the overall in the province, although Edmonton's fine, is that is down. Now Ontario, it's not good. Okay, like it is. So let's take the TREP system, biggest real estate board in the world by agents and maybe even by people. Okay, so there's no real estate board in China, so there's nobody keeping track of it. I don't think there's any real estate agents in China, to be honest with you. So what's going on in the TREP system? That's all of the GTA. It's off in all regions. All parts of it are down in price. All parts of it, all products are down. Doesn't matter what it is. Condos is the endless condo crash.
just gets worse and worse. But now all other products are down too. Prices are down in single family, prices are down in semis, prices are down in townhouses. Right across the region, all types of properties, all prices down on the TREB system on a price basis. Tiny bit of an increase, like I'm talking tiny, like we're talking 2.3% increase in sales volume. That's like 140 houses more than last year, which 8 homes, like condos, everything. So that's still a very small increase off the worst year. Last year, 2024, month of August was the worst month in 27 years. So yeah, so it's coming off the worst. It's 2% better than the worst. Okay, but the key point is prices. Prices down right across the board. Prices down throughout Ontario. Maybe there's one house in Ottawa. I don't know price. I don't know, but I don't think so. So this is the story. This is the story we're going to be faced with. That why is it so bad? First-time home buyers are making a bit of a comeback, but they are a small group. And the reality is that Canadian house prices have been batshit crazy for a very long time. In all regions, all places, they've been too high, and that's just the way it is. And the prices have to come down. Another consideration is that the existence of people buying, the whole extinction of investors, real estate investors, of people buying a house to flip, and buying a house to fix up and flip, and buying a house to rent out, or buying a condo, or buying anything. Yeah, other than multifamily units like an 8-plex, like a small apartment building, real estate investment world in Canada is dead. Dead as a doorknob. Maybe okay, go back a bit, but not. It's dead. So the other consideration is that since they're extinct, it only leaves us, that's a whole category of people off the boards. It just leaves a limited number of people to buy houses. And so if you're not a first-time homeowner looking to buy your first home, or your move-up buyer, even move-up buyers are very worried because they have to sell their house, and they're worried about the price they can get for their house. So it's still a very slow market, but prices are falling off faster. Because when you extend out a slow market for a couple of years, also extended for the third year, peak in February of 2022, peak prices Ontario, you extend it for multiple years. We're heading for 2026 soon. There's capitulation. There's people. Somebody said, "Well, I'm waiting for prices to rebound." They haven't rebounded. I give up. I'm going to sell. I got to offer for a price that I know is good. And the knowledge that prices are falling starts to seep through everywhere. People have heard it long enough, and they've gone through it too long. They've been hoping for the spring to get better, and the spring has not gotten any better for multiple springs, and that's enough of it. I mean, I'm just going to sell. So, what do we expect? What do we expect in Canada? We expect more price reduction. Yeah. For everybody who's listening to people who are saying, the market is shifting, we expect prices to rebound soon, just tell all those people to shut the fuck up, okay? That is not what's going to happen. Prices are going to continue to decline. And it's not hard to understand. There's growing unemployment in Canada. It's nearly 10% unemployment in Toronto. Prime Minister Carney is hinting there's going to be an austerity budget, and there will be many job reductions in the federal civil service, which is just huge. I mean, the federal civil service has grown so fast over the last 10 years that, yeah, it's unsustainable, and they're going to be cuts. That's people losing their jobs in government. I haven't seen that for a while. And there's no trade agreement, and even if there is a trade agreement, people stop thinking about it. People say, well, Trump is Trump. Even if we get an agreement, how long will it last? Guess what? It won't last long. On January 1st, the U.S. can declare the end of Kuzma, the end of the free trade agreement. By the end of 2020, in 2026, it's up. It's over. They can declare it as early as January of 2025. Declare the 1-year break period. So yeah, it's going to get worse, not going to get better. And maybe you want to take advantage. Maybe it's not the time, but just understand this. Anybody who says prices are going to rebound, they're wrong. Wow, something's going on with power of sale and foreclosure in Southern Ontario. Like, for reals. Like, what do the youngsters say? I don't call youngsters.
started probably thinking in their 20s and 30s, and just thinking an old fart. But anyway, frills, there's something going on. Now, what is power of sale? So it's like this, same as foreclosure. I say that, a bunch of lawyers are going to say, no, it's not the same at all, but just hear me out. For the average person, I'll explain it. So, if you fall behind on your mortgage payments, you can't pay your mortgage, job loss, marital breakdown, something, illness, whatever the case may be, you just can't pay your mortgage. And, you've gone 90 days, the bank has legal action after 90 days, and they do go legal action after 90 days. By the way, you go to legal action about 8 business days after you miss a payment. That's the truth. In the strict world of private lending and alternative lending, legal action starts right away. But let's just think about the process for a second. So the payments are missed. You haven't been paying your mortgage. The bank takes legal action. Legal action takes some time. It's not, it's getting steadily busier. It does take time. People it's going to court that you have to be served. There's a number of months. Some people will tell you, oh no, I get it done. We can get people under power sale. We get them finished in 120 days. More likely it's going to be 6, 7, 8, 9 months. What it's going to take. Now, it can be delayed. People can find ways to delay it. There are Facebook groups, for God's sakes, that will teach you how to try to delay power of sale actions. But at the end of the day, everybody needs to remember this. You will lose your house. I mean, if somebody gave you a mortgage, the mortgage is some of the oldest kind of contract law on earth. It's hundreds of year old contract law. It's black and white. There's no arguments. They gave you the mortgage. You have to make the payments. If you don't make the payments, they got to get their money back. It's that simple. And normally the only way of getting the money back is going through this legal process. You evicted from the house. By the way, most people do leave on their own. And the mortgage company, whoever holds that mortgage, sells the house through a real estate agent. It's not crooked. They don't sell to themselves. There's really meticulous rules of power of sale that you can't vary from. You can't just, I'll sell to my cousin for a huge reduction. You can't do any of those things. It has to be MLS listed. It has to be an average of 2 appraisals. There's lots of clear regulation about this that is handled properly. At the end of the day, the house is sold. So what we're encountering today is that these problems are in places where the property values have fallen. See, if you've got a lot of equity in your home, you could just sell it, right? I mean, that makes sense. Like, you've got a $1 million home, you got a $400,000 mortgage, you've got lost job, illness, everything goes wrong, you can't make the payments. You would just sell the house, right? Because you're going to get proceeds of $500,000. Sure, you would sell the house, of course. But when values drop, which is what we're encountering in all parts of Southern Ontario, with the possible exception of 416. 416, the values aren't plummeting. The condos are going up in smoke. Yes, absolutely, they're just gone. But if you're a single-family home, a semi-townhome, 416, you're still probably good. But in the outskirts of town, and of course the condos, there's power of sale actions. Because a lot of those, and this is the wild part, a lot of these properties are bought with some element of private mortgaging at some point. Like, you might get first mortgage from an alternative lender, and then get, up front or surreptitiously get a small private mortgage, private second mortgage behind it. These are not all bank mortgages. When I read through all the power of sales that I see every week, the majority of them are some kind of private lending. Sure, some are banks, absolutely. But there's some kind of small mortgage company that's lent these people money. And they obviously had a problem in the first place, right? So that's why it happened. We see big losses. I've seen $300,000 losses because the house is being sold for less than the purchase price. If you're selling for less than the purchase price, chances are it's a loss. It's obviously a loss to the borrower, because their equity's been wiped out. It may even be a loss to the lender because values may have fallen so far that it's below the mortgage, commonly referred to in our business as underwater. Okay? So I've seen big losses happen $5,300,000, $400,000. I saw a $1.1 million loss just last week. Now that one sounded little, that one looked fishy to me. I studied it, I read through all the title documents. Something was going on there. Something was off. There was some self-dealing that I could see in that process, but absolutely somebody lost some money somewhere, because it would appear that the mortgage was significantly larger than the sale price, either by $1 million, $1.1 million, or less. But I assure you, people lost money on that thing. There was losses for somebody. Okay, maybe the ugliest thing I'm seeing is the collapse of elements of sleep. So in Ontario and Canada in general, we went through a horrible experience in 2022 through 2024 of really malicious international student visa scenarios, where the evil, crappy community college was just recruiting overseas. They paid recruiters overseas to separate people from their money, send their kids here to Canada for a garbage 2-year certificate. They were just rip-off artists. There was hardly any of it. Sometimes the student was just using a laptop. All the education was online. Horrible, cheating, awful. And at the last, after 2 years, the government stepped in and shut it down. But in the meantime, we went to a point where there was about 700,000 student visas issued a year for a couple of years. And it was just a rapid increase. Now, student housing and this kind of bizarre increase in students is a lucrative place. I mean, you buy a single-family home, you fill it up with futons, and you rent out spaces in a basement, or you're two people to a bedroom. It's craziness, and you can make a fortune. But fortunately, when the government shut that down, fortune ended, and people had homes in student housing. So there's problems with student housing. One horrible deal we looked at was where an individual employed, he was a victim of his own family, really. His immediate family convinced him to use fake income documents, mortgage document fraud, to buy a house with 5% down that was hours away. I think it was in like someplace in Kitchener-Waterloo or something, and for student housing. And they filled it up with the mattresses, and then the students all went away. And the idea of 5% down was it's a very easy way you could make money. Like, you'd buy this house for 5% down, and then you'd have all these students filling the place up, $800 a month from each one of them. You could make money for a while, particularly because you got low mortgage rates off of the CB&C mortgage, 5% down. All fake documents, all totally fraudulent income. The person was a student, wasn't working at all. Orchestrated by his family, and then he surprised by accident a few years later, all the students gone, his family stopped paying the mortgage. And he was going to have to file for bankruptcy because the bank had taken the house away and they were selling it, and he was going to be at like a $200,000 loss. He wasn't even working. Like, yeah, hey, federal government, I told you, income document fraud. I had the solution. I gave you the solution. You decided to you should try to do it, and then you screwed it all up. So just go back to doing it. The point here is, there's more of that out here. There are more of these student housing fiascos, and some of them are related to document fraud. It's good to be bad. Now, it's isolated. It's not everybody. It's not a lot of houses. But that's going to be a bad.
He's saying, it's a mortgage. It's saying, he's opinionated, and he's been constantly and long. It's so it's mortgages. It's a non-political situation. Contact us as mortgage for specific recommendations. We make decisions about mortgages. We may not agree with what we make sure and can we say there is a wrong school? And we are back. Listen, I love that. Thank you again. That's the show. It's the third time. Second. It is like, but look, you know what? This show is Angry Morgan.
we've got to talk about mortgages and property values and real estate, because that's what the mortgage business is. You know, banks will tell you the mortgage business is all about mortgages, and in some ways that's true for the banks, although sometimes not as much as they'll tell you. As you say, sometimes they're watching the real estate pretty carefully too. But in Nick's business, and how many years in the business now?
Next month it'll be 39 years.
39 years. I'm 30. Nick's got me solidly beat.
Okay. So I fool people because I look so good.
Well, you look better than me. God knows I know you than you. For God's sakes, but you know, and folks, I want to make this really, really clear. The level of expertise you get with Nick Cipriano is off the charts. Nick started in, you know, what was the original alternative lender in Canadian space, which is Home Trust. It's Home Savings and Loan. Home Savings and Loan back in the day. Mentored under the number one guy in the space, Jerry Solomon, and rose from, what did you start doing work underwriter with Jerry?
As an underwriter.
Rose to the president.
I did. Unbelievable.
Rose to the president. And there's a lot of things happening in Home Trust. We don't have to cover that today. I was gone quick. And you left. But Nick, and this part of it's really, Nick started River Rock, which has now become an extremely successful organization. From sweet buckle, zero. Nick sitting in a chair, making phone calls, talking to brokers. I had one employee. Nick starts from one employee, but people, let me tell you this: if you're really fucking good at what you do, everything's possible. Okay? And when it comes to alternative lending, there's Nick and maybe 2 or 3 other people in the province, and that's it. That's the go-to. Right? So we're going to talk a little bit about the private mortgage side, but mostly we're going to talk about property type, property value, regional issues, because as Nick talks about all the time, and I thank him for it constantly, because there's a lot of people try to spin the alternative lending mortgage world as something different. Okay? But the alternative mortgage lending world, in terms of mortgage investment groups, which is essentially private money. It's very sophisticated private money. But it's private money. It's people's investing. It's corporations investing. You've got lots of investors, and they're not just individuals. But it's also all about the real estate. That's what it is. Right? And if you don't have the core discipline in real estate, you run risks. Right? And you're seeing it every day. All right, so
I would say the business is about process and discipline, blocking and tackling. It's not a sexy business.
Not a sexy business, but Nick started from zero to a high level of success because he's good at blocking and tackling. Okay, really good. So, and by the way, this is no bullshit. This is great. There is no magic in private lending. You can get really, really, really big, and you can do volume commercial lending. We've got some people we know in the business, like Ron's better do that. And let me tell you, there are issues. Oh, how long have they been gated now, Ron's years at least. Okay. Not looking to ungate anytime soon. So yeah, but in Nick's business, because he's insisted on plain vanilla, executed carefully, very carefully. You don't have any exceptions, do you?
Well, we're all exclusively residential homes, detached semis, townhouses, small condo group. Middle class, we don't do the big ticket stuff, and predominantly homeowners in urban suburban areas. We don't do rural, we don't do small town, we don't do construction, we don't do commercial,
don't do development.
Like I always say, we like it when you drive down the street and everybody looks the same except for the color of the brick and the siding and the landscape. They're easy to evaluate and they're easy to sell.
Same house, same street, same subdivision. It is cookie cutter is best. 100% cookie cutter best. Okay. So the concept behind that is also understanding real estate intimately. But there have been a few default issues. We'll just touch on this very briefly. So in one of the things that we're experiencing in the mortgage business, and some of the banks, by the way, the banks had a default rate of 90 days of arrears. Banks had a default rate of like 1.2, 1.4. We go back to COVID, of course. If the government's sending you money, default's not a big deal. It's not very optional.
And you don't get to leave your house. You have to spend your money.
So, that was no default. It's like 14 basis points. And again, people, the basis points are 1/100%. So we're way below 1/4%, right, of people going 90 days without paying. That's good. Now, I think we're up to like 23, 24 basis points. So it's almost got to work. So I think it's fair to say that in banking, 36 beeps is still a very reasonable number. I mean, if every bank in Canada went from 23, 24 today to 35, 36 basis points, they wouldn't care less. I mean, we have to adjust some numbers, right? It's just life. That's life. That's what it was for 50 years. That's right. So, we don't know when this going to happen. But in your world, it's a little different. You're telling me maybe a year ago that your default was virtually zero.
Yeah, we've got higher defaults, right? But our numbers are always skewed by the fact that if somebody bounces a payment and they don't respond to emails, phone calls, texts, whatever, by day 16 we put them in legal action. So as soon as you put them in legal action, even though it's not 90 days, that counts as a default. But I would say that just is noise on our books, because we found that all the years we've been open, if we put somebody into legal action, only 24% of the time do we have to solve them. 76% of the time they solve them.
Find the money,
refinance, pay us out, sell the house, put a second mortgage on behind us, and keep us up to date.
The bottom line is, as we all know in Canada, it's kind of a silent recession.
I think since 23.
Completely agree. It is not. There's no positives. I want to say that openly. I don't think there's any positives in the Ontario economy today. There's nothing you can point at and say, oh yeah, this is going to boom. I don't know what that item is. That's going to boom. Structure's been shut down for 16 months. Okay? Residential anyway. The government's still paying to build hospitals. Yeah. That's our tax money. It goes on for us.
Right. We have endless pockets.
Endless money. Fountain of money. But we know the Ontario economy is not in a good spot, and yet defaults are still reasonable. But now we're going to talk about valuation, because, as you said to me on many occasions, that's really the business you're in. We're in the real estate analysis business. Right. So, let's start with the fact that people in Ontario must recognize it is very regional, and it's very product oriented. Now, you always stayed away from money, so expand on that a bit.
Yeah, you know what? Years ago we would do them because it was booming, and we were doing mostly owner occupied, and the math worked, right? But then as the condo market got crazier and crazier, the math no longer worked, right? So our book is about 6% high-rise condos, and our loan to values are much lower on that product. And we're much more sensitive to buildings, locations, and everything else. So it's not a big part of our business. Our main part of our business are detached, semis, and townhouses. We love that product. You can sell that product any day of the week. It's all about price. That's the beauty of lending residential. It's all about price. If you have a banquet center that you've taken back, the price can be zero because you've taken it back because nobody's renting the banquet center.
Yeah, if you have to power a pizza shop out of their commercial building, I mean, you better find a pizza center.
Yeah, like there's certain business. Yeah. There's certain things, single-purpose industrial buildings. Like you take that back, there's nothing you can do.
So, folks, what we mean by take back is you've gone through the power of sale process and you become the owner. Correct. Okay. Which is the ultimate cure for all arrears. Is that you go through a legal procedure and you end up as the owner of the building and you sell it. By the way,
which would be the ultimate pain,
which is a lot of work. A lot of energy goes into that. It's not a simple thing.
And since the pandemic, it's a lot more energy and a lot more work.
A lot more energy, a lot more work. I'll tell you one thing about social media and folks, it allows everybody who does stop paying their mortgage to investigate how to deal with it.
But they don't always get the best information.
No.
sometimes people think the best thing to do is fight. Put up a defense, fight. And I always, when that happens, we call them and say, you're spending your own money. Like, you're paying for our lawyer out of your equity. If you work something out immediately, let's do it. Like, I always say, if you're more, prior to the pandemic, if you started a legal action in Ontario in a power sale, within 5 to 6 months, you would have vacant possession. Like, the borrower would either sell themselves, or you would step in, get the sheriff, go out there and evict them. Now that same process takes 10 to 12 months, right? And if they put up a defense, it could add more months to it, right? Because you have to go to court. And my argument is, if your payments are $10,000 a month, just to make up a number, it's grand. So for 5 to 6 months, that's $50,000, $60,000. 10 to 12 is $120,000. That's all the equity disappearing. So why wouldn't you try to solve the problem sooner than later?
I want to really emphasize and explain to everybody who's listening, and I realize virtually no one who's listening is in danger, but it is really important to understand this. This mortgage contract is probably the most finite, easy to understand, simplest contract. I give you this money, you pay me back and you pay me back. And when you stop paying, your house is secured. Right? So if you don't pay, I get to take your house away and sell it and get my money back. This is like 200, 300-year-old law. Okay? It has been tested in court a gajillion times. Nobody's ever won. Right? Nobody ever says, no, I think this is a good reason for me not to pay the people who gave me the money. Because we can prove you got the money, right? So, and there's no defense. There's no defense. You could create a lot of smokescreen about what you might think you were wrong. But in the end, you gotta get the money back. That's right. Still won't pay. There's literally no more cheap and dried contract on earth, folks, than this mortgage. Okay? It is more tested thousands and thousands of times. There's been a jillion cases, and you get the odd bar. Oh, you just want my house. I want nothing less. Trust me. Yeah, I do not want to be going through this. I'd rather just sit down with you, let's work out a solution and execute the solution so you walk away with as much money as possible. We get paid off and you can go back. It's another thing I got to emphasize. My dealings in private mortgages, I am like a rounding error to Nick. Okay, but we do private lending in our company. And this is so true. I do not want the house. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to argue out and then somehow have my cousin buy it on my behalf. I don't want any of that. That's like, because it doesn't work, right? When you get caught eventually, and that's totally against the law. But most importantly, our world is best when you just pay, right, and then sell. I'm in the lending business. In the lending business, not the property management business. We're in the lawyer business. Yeah. We don't want to have to send, when the house is empty, we don't want to have to send somebody to clean the house and shovel the snow. Pay to mow the lawn. Yeah. Stick and sell it. Gotta do all that stuff. You have no idea. They could have done it for a living for a long time. And it is uniformly, even if we have people trained to do it, it's uniformly a pain in the ass. Completely. And houses get broken into. 100%. Empty houses get broken into. All the time. All kinds of bad shit happens. The bad stuff always happens. Always. Okay, so, yes, Nick was right. It is absolutely true. There's no national private lender who's a real operator ever wants to take over the house. You want the house, you want the payments, refi, you can go back here and find a bank who's going to help you pay us off, sell the house, whatever the strategy was. We don't want any part of taking over. So none of us do. Let's talk about real estate. So we talked about condos, but let's go a little deeper. You were always very cautious, right? Totally cautious, and for good reason. But just explain the reasoning for a second. You had the philosophy from day one. Yeah, well, so, I got into this business in 86, right? 86 to 89 were not too bad. They were great. Yeah, but I was too young to make any money. Right? So they were great for me. And then in April 89, kind of was the peak. And then lots of bad things happened, right? Interest rates went up dramatically to double digit in Ontario. Employment was over 12% in Ontario. We had mass speculation in real estate market. Like 86, 89. Like big builders were building out streets with no pre-sales. Condominium buildings were being built with no pre
pre-sales. There's a flood of inventory on the market.
I'm going to interrupt you. Listen to that, folks. This is what Nick just said. Condominiums were being built with no pre-sales.
Right. And then to make it worse, you could pre-buy a condo, but you only need $500 down. So somebody would pull up and say, well, why buy one? I can buy 5. So look how much wealthier I'm going to be when I flip these things, right? So we saw a lot of that, right? And then you had an NDP government that won a majority that created chaos in the province, and which ties to our conversation a bit about real estate values with what the government's plans are. And then you had a Quebec referendum. Right? So uncertainty trades on the first of all, high rates, high unemployment, massive uncertainty is the worst possible recipe for real estate. Right? So,
sound familiar, folks?
Right. So, the values were dropping. Residential values dropped a little over 25% over that period of time. Commercial values dropped 50%.
It was a crash.
It was a total crash. Right? And I remember I went to go look for a job, and I met this regional VP from CIBC. I'll never forget this. And I said, he goes, do you want to make a lot of money? And I go, yeah. And he goes, get out of the mortgage business. I'll never forget that. And after a few years, from 90 till 95, I was thinking this guy was right.
Yeah, because it was bad. It was a big drop in 90, 91, and then just kind of a little drop, just like little 2 or 3% reductions. Nothing ever got off the map until mid-95. Just started to creep up.
We used to always say, is that the light at the end of the tunnel or a train?
Train, because the train was coming for years. It came for a number of years.
No relief.
So that's what sort of your experience with condos back then.
Right, and commercial and everything. So from that experience, I thought, you know what? Our portfolio in residential, but we also had a lot of condos, but we also had a lot of banquet centers, industrial buildings, C-grade strip malls, and I thought the only thing that kind of moved was residential, middle-class residential homes. You could always sell them.
Right, and even in the worst times, the value was down, but they went. You could sell them.
Okay. So I've just continued that philosophy. You know what? A house is a house is a house, as long as you get the value right, right? And you lend the right number of value on the house, you'll be fine. Because I always say, and we've actually trademarked this, bad things happen to good people, right? People get sick, they die, they lose their jobs, they get divorced, right? That's a big one, right? So at the end of the day, your house is your constant, right? You can lend to the best A borrower in the world. If they die, you're not an A borrower. So, right? So we, in our underwriting, not only do we put a tremendous amount of emphasis on our valuation of the real estate over and above, we use third-party appraisers, but I always say anybody can have a bad day. So we have a proprietary model where we do a deep dive on that value. Then after that, we say, okay, say something bad does happen to these people. What's our exit strategy? So we know what all their friction costs are. We reverse engineer the numbers, and that's how we make our final decision. Because you never know what's going to happen. Right now, we've had to adjust that model over the last few years because the court system's slower and everything else. So you tweak the model.
More friction.
Yeah, you don't make the model and then, okay, this model's locked in stone. You got to keep watching the market and looking ahead, going, what's happened, what could happen, and then tweak your model accordingly.
So again, thinking about the condos, which you recently decided, I don't want to make that a big chunk of my business. Equity-based lending. But you had a comment earlier in the day that you thought this just stopped making sense after 2019.
Yeah, like when you were buying a condo in 2017, like before 2019, especially before 2018.
Yeah.
Right? When you were buying a condo before 2018, you were probably paying anywhere from $600 to $750 a foot, right?
Mainly in between, yeah.
Somewhere in that range, right? Depending on the quality of the building and location. So you could rent that place out, and you might not be making a lot of money, but you'd be a break even.
It wasn't a dead loss.
It wasn't a dead loss, right? Anybody that's been buying, well, the problem is if you bought it pre-construction in beginning of 22 or 22 after,
or even 20.
Yeah, you're not worth what it's, you
you bought a unit for 800, it's worth 600, maybe less.
Some people bought a unit for 1,200.
Yeah, right. So like they're toast. The banks have stepped up to underpin those ones for the A borrowers, but not everybody's an A borrower. So those people get hit hard. But we differ slightly where I think there's no new buildings being built. None.
So, no high-rise condos built in the last 15 months. Right. But I know starts.
Now, I personally felt, the listings have spiked up dramatically. Like the latest data is days on market for a high-rise condo, 7 months.
It's going up. I think last month was like 8.
It's creeping up.
Yeah.
So, but what's interesting is you've been seeing a softening in values, but you haven't seen like
no crash.
No crash. So, you keep drilling down. And we've talked about this before, and Benjamin Talk, Deputy Chief of Commerce at CNBC's written reports on this, where he says 50% of high-rise condos in the city are by individual investors. But they've discovered that these people bought it for a couple of reasons. One was they knew they were buying it, but for tax purposes, but also the goal was eventually to give this unit to one of their children. And this was a way that the tenant would pay for most of the carrying costs, and they'd have to throw in money. So,
but Nick, that would be true if you bought 6 of them.
No. Well, if you bought 6 of them, that's the greedy guy, right?
But then you have a guy you call for
that's right. We had a call last week that a real estate agent, because he knows the market.
Of course.
And he bought 25 pre-construction units in a building. 25.
25 for sure.
Yeah. Okay. And they go, would you do it? And we said, obviously, no. He said, okay, how many would you do? And it was the same answer we gave first time, none.
Like, so the answer was 0 for 25 and 0 for 1.
Yeah, like that's just, you're just asking for trouble, right? Like a file like that, you close it and then you just take it over the inflection. Like you don't even let it take any support paperless, but figuratively speaking, you just.
But to your point, you could buy one condo, right? And on the assumption you were going to have some long-running losses.
That's right, but you're going to get appreciation gain if you play the long game. Like I have to say to people, if you're going to buy something, if you're not, your intention is not to keep it for 10 years, maybe you should think twice about it, right? It's like the Warren Buffett approach to the stocks, right? Like when you ask, how long do you buy a stock for? Your goal is forever, right? Like, no.
So he sold a shit ton of stock in the last year.
Exactly. But I think that, like, it's a 10-year mindset, especially if you're real estate. I think that's my personal.
Sure, but none of that's true if you're buying in multiples.
No, you're buying it because you think you're going to flip a bunch by closing.
And that's ultimately where we're at today. So yeah, we have a slightly different opinion on that. Like I think that, I think one area that we agree on is that sort of the right price is $650. And that way you make money.
Yeah,
you break even.
So the problem is $1,000 a foot is basically break even.
To build.
Yeah, right. So that's why nobody's building, because they can't sell.
But $100 of that's development fees from Kansas City.
That's right.
So and another 100 is infinite delays going to get approved, because you have to, as Nick well knows, when you have to build a high-rise condo, you got to buy the land first.
That's right.
And pay a mortgage on it, or pay some kind of financing on it where you have some leverage against it. And you're paying during the 4.5 years it takes us to get the city to say yes. So you've got so many false expenses, right? Taxes, red tape, years of bullshit. I'm going to build a condo. It was a parking lot. Now I think City of Toronto, you want me to build a condo, right? Because fuck the parking lot.
A lot of money.
That's a ton of money, but you're going to make me wait 3.5 years just to say yes.
And then they get to close a lane for the construction, which I appreciate. They only charge them, I think it's $40 a day, which is nice for all the traffic disruption.
Did you know in Manhattan that's against the law?
For a condo drill, I didn't know that.
For any construction in Manhattan, it's been the law for 40 years.
It's a great law.
It is fantastic.
We should have that law.
That law is the right, and that's why when you go to Manhattan, you see that whenever even people are doing repairs on a building, you can't even close the sidewalk on one side. You have to put this beautiful, the sidewalk. And because New York, Manhattan figured it out a long, long time ago. Don't fuck with the people who live here, right?
Well, we were in Manhattan
much easier it was to get around than it was here.
Now you know the answer. Yeah, there is still.
I guess that's why our roads are so good because of all the development fees.
Yeah, that must be why everything.
Why I'm blowing a tire on a pothole.
And
that's the valley. I got something to say directly to you, because I remember what you said, right? A little bit, vaguely. I remember I responded to and told you what it was, and it was funny as hell. But I got something to say to you now. You're still around, though. You're still in the valley. I've done my thing. I've been to Minneapolis. I've been to New York. I've been to Florida, Arizona. All these, like, I was up in only Minneapolis, right? Green Bay, Florida, Georgia, all these states, like with the man, North Carolina, used to drive to South Carolina, Myrtle Beach all the time, all the different spots, Fayetteville, Raleigh, Durham. I got homies out there in the hood, out there in North Carolina. Like, I've had dudes from Pine Bluff I was cool with in Arkansas. Like, I've been everywhere. Like, I'm a real good. I meet people, I can just start talking, and they already click with me and mess with me heavy. Anybody, especially up north, because they don't have this mentality. Down south, it's cool to be the best. I'll say that. We definitely the best, but it's not really who beats me. Down here, it's just weird, like, vibe. Like, y'all don't want to see nobody make it. That's what it's like. I got stranded in Kentucky, you saw what I was there. So I was like, I think I've been there for the whole game. I was checking out the universities and hit some different spots, man. I was in some different places. I don't know about Washington. I think I've been up there before. I think I went up there.
Your warden contacts, Efka and Antoine, you think they'll come through?
They'll try.
Well, it's more than we've gotten from the first warden. Where'd you meet them anyway?
It was the Deep Roads. They were there on warden business. Varric and I were after Solus. We didn't tell them at the time, of course. But you survive a Deep Stalker attack together, and you make fast friends.
That's the truth. You can't succeed like that when you can't acknowledge other people's success. People don't ever understand. And it's been put in perspective for them. Real talk. You got your flashers on, right? And green neon Bentley. You pay attention to everything. You got your flashers on, and then you drive fast as hell. Alright, flashers. That's what I'm saying, folks. Be focused on the wrong priority. How you doing today, buddy? Hey, buddy. Buddy's all full of pep and stepped in it. So yeah, man, I hope they can't drive. For real. I'm on your side, Belly. It's alright. I'm on your side. But, you know, it's just ridiculous, bro. Like, at the day I want to get some rest. That's what matters. I've been working so hard. Doing so hard. All y'all need saving, man. Need saving. But yeah, that's my whole point. Like, people will, they'll basically change their worldview whatever's comfortable for them to feel like they're somebody. All these folks know I stay get money. All these folks know I come from money out here. I don't come from money I made on money. I come from money I made at work. I built everything for myself earlier. I'm still extremely wealthy. Wealth, equity, that is the way to go. It's that simple. Let's see if I can. That man's boss. Yeah, like I said, keep on doing what we do. I timed that perfectly. We gonna keep on making it do what it do. Like I said, I run the streets. It's what it is. Full control. I need gloves because I'm full control. We're talking when we get some black gloves. I'm the puppeteer, not the puppet master. I am not the Joker. Me. The Joker just has the depth card. Don't forget your lucky deck. You're my number one guy. Have y'all seen the original one? It's awesome. Michael Keaton, I think his name. I like that one. I'll be watching that one. I'm not watching that. But yeah, you know, some days you gotta kind of chill. I'm not chilling. I'm still out here, but you know, some days you gotta, you know, get some rest, man. I just been lagging. Christina said she's going through it too. We're connected, honey, because we be feeling the same stuff. Like all the time. We're definitely connected. We're telepathically connected too. I just told you I love you in my mind. Did you see that? Did you feel it? I believe it 100%. Whether we know it or not, I know we are. But you're going to be okay. You have to be. God is real. God loves you. God loves me. God is building all this for us. He did all this for us. Sorry that it's had to be so hard. I really am. It's been hard as hell for me too, so I relate. Trust me. I understand. It's not fair. It's not cool, but at the same time, I feel like God took a lot of bad stuff, bad situations, and made them positive. I believe that's what He's doing right now. I think He takes nothing and turns it into everything. That's exactly what He's done. So, it's all going to turn around. I just know it. I believe in God's promise, man, just like I believe in myself. Even if nobody else does, but Christina believes in me. But I see it all happening, man. I really do. I see it happening. I think we're going to be alright. But yeah, you know, I really don't. I don't like, you know, working this late, but at the same time, and token, I mean, what can you do? Like, some days I just need rest. Today's a Friday. Well, I don't know. I think I'm going to go over here and try to see what I can do. Because hopefully I did get a little bit of rest. And if I did, I'm still tired, man. It's just weird. It's like you said, like I sleep, I feel like something, and I'm still tired. Go to bed too late, I know that's a problem. But I mean, I'm Batman, so what do you expect? But, yeah, man, these folks ain't ready, bro. Yeah. I did something that's gonna happen with that.
So after crossing paths in the deep roads, you kept in touch with Evka and Antoine?
Yeah, we trade letters every few months. One time, Antoine sent a diagram for some kind of automatic door he was developing based on springs.
Well, I guess I am gonna
It
have to
chimed when it closed, so you wouldn't get stuck. He can be a little unorthodox.
Aren't we all?
Dang, man, I knew it. Shouldn't have had it in my pocket. Bet I know where it probably dropped out. Hopefully I can find it, bro. not like it costs that much. It's like $2, but if I lose it, then I guess it wasn't meant for me to use it. But I thought it was a good idea. But I'll go back and try to find it. The question is, whether I lose it, how far back did I drop it at? Because I got my other covering in my back pocket, you know, so like it didn't have any room, so it fell out. But if I'm doing all this, I might have to skip the day. Like training. See if it's anywhere over here. Gotta walk all the way back. Once I see it on the way back, it could be anywhere. It happens. But yeah, man. Like I said, bro. Folks, they can't compete. Can't compete. They're never going to be able to compete. Yeah. It's just that simple, bro. Like, legit. It's that simple. They can't compete. What can they do? Not take 3 hours. Not that hard. Alright. Let's look over here. And you can't miss it, I don't think. It's the little covering. If it's flat, then it has those little green dots on it. Probably dropped it up here. Oh, here it is. Side of the road. Oh, I got it. He's okay. Survive. Got it. Dusty, dirty. Alright, so I'm gonna have to wear it. Hey. Hardly being Batman ain't easy. I love how these folks watch me. They wanna like say something all the time. Pass judgment. Like, you could never do any of this. Like, half of them can't even do a pull-up. You know, it's like a very small percentage of the world that can even do like a pull-up. So, for me to do what I do, that's not tough. Like this clean up here. Talking to you guys. Right here. Oh, man. That's what I'm saying, bro. It's out through this nonsense along valley. You know, I saw a video today. I've been telling y'all. The dude just got into whatever he got into on the video. And just like that, he walked himself right into a life sentence. Pretty much. Like the worst charge you can have. I'm telling you, man, it can be accidents that happen. It can be all sorts of stuff. You've got to pay attention. You better wake up. The world you live in is just a sugar-coated top. There is another world beneath it. The real world. That's what the hell I represent, boy, and that's my Batman. My Batman. All this amazing vernacular coming out of it. might need another toothbrush. I need a toothbrush. Gotta have a toothbrush today. 'Cause I'm Batman. You say, Batman, you say? Yeah, I don't think that just because we have fun, everything's sweet over here. Trust me, it ain't. It ain't at all. It's all that being guilty because it ain't no fun. But that's what I'm
Lace,
saying.
are you all right?
Look at my job.
Yeah.
Batman.
I'm okay.
You think it's easy?
You were just staring.
What?
There's something on your mind.
It's just
Like, you don't seem to get
everything.
I wiggle.
Sometimes it doesn't feel real, you know?
Yeah, I know.
The whole thing like a ball, like a top worm. You don't get it, bro. Groovy Jimmy will never get it. When you actually be a grown man, it's hard. It ain't easy. Look at what I do for a career. No one can force it, bro. This is divine law too much less. Force it for real. I get busy. So you think that I don't have to be smart about my actions, my decisions, what I do? Right? Yeah, silly, man. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, imagine a dude from a younger, different generation. He's like 26, trying to talk down. Golly, you gotta get some respect for yourself, man. Gotta get some self-respect. Yeah. It's about that. Man, it's like name of the game, man, respect. Thank you. Thank you. What's up, all my folks in the valley? The people who thought they knew me. Holler at me. How y'all like me now? How you feel about me now? How y'all? Right. Jesse Martinez, he's out there. What's up? How you doing? That's it. He said back in the day, he's like, I'm jelly. But you're getting 10 grand, taking a trip to Florida. And telling y'all, I've been to when I was in college. I took the Florida, ended up in Cape Coral. Yeah, I ended up in Cape Coral. Cape Coral's alright. I had fun in Cape Coral. I was just listening to my music, my punk rock, and playing basketball.